Hello, everyone. This is Rick, and welcome to Astral Club. This is Ancient Alien Invasion. Before I get into it, I want to mention Patreon. If you'd like to support Astral Club on Patreon, you can do so. When you join, you get advanced episodes on Sunday, commercial free, a library of downloaded episodes for your podcast app, and a Patreon email where you can ask questions and we can talk back and forth. And if you're interested, there will be a link in the description. Next up, private lessons. If you'd like a private lesson to learn how to astral project, be more than glad to work with you. All you have to do is go to the description and just reply to the email and request further information. Let's get into it. If you recall, I told you last week about my visit to the Akashic Records, where I discovered quite a lot about the ancient planet Venus and its efforts to colonize other planets before the planetary disaster hit. When I was done, I still had time, so I changed my focus. I said that I wanted to see ancient alien especially, interactions with Earth. And I kind of left it open because I didn't want to get too specific. I wanted to see what they would show, what the Akashic Records would show me. Well, they showed me quite a bit, and I can only mention right now partially what I saw. And it was quite shocking to me. And before I get into it, I just want to make this disclaimer. Nothing that I found or that I'm going to share with you invalidates the existence of a spirit world like the astral plane or the existence of powerful entities that are positive or negative from a human viewpoint. However, I have been shown that our ancient ancestors were manipulated through various religious teachings that there was other motives at work here. And I'm going to share examples and those possible motives with you. Today, of course, we have to remember that our ancient ancestors were primitive. They weren't stupid, but they didn't have technology. So when they saw things like craft flying in the air, or they heard voices from the sky, they made assumptions. They assumed these were gods. Today, of course, if that happened to a good portion of the planet that has been experienced with technology, we wouldn't believe that they were gods. We would believe that they were beings from other planets, from other dimensions, possibly other times. However, let's recognize that on Earth today, we still have populations that would mistake these other entities, these aliens, for spiritual entities, gods, demons. For example, there are uncontacted tribes in the Amazon. There's others in New Guinea that if they were confronted with things that our ancestors saw thousands of years ago, they would also believe that these were gods. To bring things closer to home, there are Christian fundamentalists who steadfastly believe that the whole alien thing is actually just demons trying to deceive mankind. So, even today, we're confronted with a wide variety of opinions and interpretations of what these extraterrestrials might bring to this planet. I want to get into some of the first things that I saw. I mentioned just a second ago that these aliens did indeed manipulate us. And I'm going to get into the examples. What I didn't get a clear vision of was motive, or at least I got a couple different motives. Well, look at it this way. Have you ever seen the movie Avatar? There you see humans going to primarily extract a brilliantly named substance that was called unobtainium. But there was also good humans who meant well for the Na'vi, which was the resident population of that planet. So you might say there were mixed motives. And I think these particular aliens who were involved in this, and there may have been more than one race, I strongly got that they were reptilian and reptilian allies. And some of those allies may look like humans. So they don't always appear like reptilians. And reptilians also have abilities to deceive our minds. But we ended up with this group that came here many thousands of years ago with an agenda. And I was able to ferret out two possible agendas. The first one is the giving folks the benefit of the doubt, which is they were here to help mankind progress, and by progression, they felt that unity, i.e., one united government on Earth, would be the best way to achieve that advancement. The negative view of that very same idea is that a unified planet would be easier to control. I mean, look at it. If aliens came here today, they might go to the UN, but you know what? We have hundreds, I don't know what it is, like 175, something like that, I forget, of different types of governments all over the earth, over states. And, imagine trying to negotiate with all of those governments. Imagine how ridiculously complex that might be. Now imagine if there was one empire, one government, say one emperor. Then all you'd have to do is tell that emperor what to do, and everything else would be taken care of. Now you might say, well, why don't they just send down all of their own troops and just command us to do this, that, and the other thing? Well, if there's anything that we've learned in the number of wars that have been fought over the past couple hundred years, is that conquering is, well, it's easier than ruling. We humans tend to be a bit troublesome. And, we like to quarrel. We like to rebel. So trying to rule over this disparate population would be more than it's probably worth to any particular race. It's much easier, and successful governments that have conquered folks in the past have known this. It's much easier to put a quisling than to put some figurehead in charge of that government and then just manipulate him. It's a lot easier than having to try to do or rule over an unruly population using your own soldiers. So that gives the, you might say, negative viewpoint of the motive. You can decide for yourself which you believe. So, how did these aliens manipulate us? Well, religion. Religion is a very powerful and a very potent force. It certainly was in the past, and it is even today. People can form all kinds of political parties and dissent against this and dissent against that. But, if you've got one unifying religion, well, it's a lot easier to control. let me give you some historical examples that I saw myself. And all this stuff flashed in front of me very quickly. So when I got back, I scrawled down all my notes to the best of my ability. Luckily, I have a pretty good historical knowledge. So the things that I saw, for the most part, made sense to me because I have studied history. And in particular, I have studied empires. I have studied aggressive countries that went about trying to conquer lands and even possibly the earth itself. Once again, though, I'm going to start off with Yahweh and Moses going to the mountain. But let's remember here that every major religion has been infiltrated. Every major religion has been manipulated. So, I can't share each and every one, but I'm not picking on anybody because everyone has been affected. So there's nobody who can run around saying, oh, we're okay, everybody else is messed up. So I just want to make sure I point that out quickly. Okay, there's the story of the Jews who had just escaped, the Hebrews, from Egyptian slavery. And they're out there in the desert, and Moses ascended to the mountaintop. He was going to communicate with God. What an interesting place to go, the top of a mountain. He spent some time there, and we were told that this God gave Moses many laws, not just the 10 we talk about, many laws. And when Moses came down, he was changed. His hair had turned white, which, by the way, can happen if you're exposed to certain types of radiation. And then he had these rules for the Jewish people to follow. There was some nonsense associated with it, but the bottom line was, to this day, these rules are still in effect with observant Jews. And those rules gave them a feeling of specialness. It gave them a feeling that they had this right to expand and to take over land that was, quote, promised to them by their God, Yahweh. Let's get into the next religion, because nobody's exempt here. Christianity. I saw Emperor Constantine, and I saw the vision that he saw in the sky. And in the sky, there was a brilliant shield with the Cairo sign, which looks kind of like a P. You can look it up in the dictionary if you like. And what Constantine said was that he heard from the sky, under this sign thou shalt conquer. Well, Constantine then instructed all of his troops to paint this sign on their shield. In the next battle, which happened, it's called the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, Maxentius, who had a superior force, was roundly defeated. And Constantine conquered, and he ended up creating what we call today the Byzantine Empire, which was quite expansionist for a long period of time. Let's go to the next major religion that we call Judeo-Christian, and that is Islam. Now, in Islam, Muhammad, who was said to be an illiterate individual, found himself in a cave. And in this cave, he took dictation somehow from this vision of the angel Gabriel. Now, this was not a two-way communication. This was this vision of what he considered angel Gabriel dictating to him, which he then inscribed. There was a number of visitations, and each time there was no question and answer period. It was nothing but this being gave the information, and then it was inscribed. After this occurred, Muhammad ended up getting a following, and over a period of years, he united the Arabic peoples who had been very disunited for their entire history. Tribes fought against one another. They were quite good warriors, quite good on horse, but they had never been united. Well, all of a sudden, this religion united them, much like Christianity united Constantine and the Byzantine and the Roman empires, and Yahweh's instructions had united the Jewish people, and then the Islamic Jihad spread out. The armies of Islam spread out and conquered a huge portion of the earth. So once again, we've got this impulse from these instructions, from this religious teaching, to conquer, to unite peoples under one banner. Now let's take a look at Attila the Hun. Now, Attila the Hun announced that he was the judgment, the scourge of God, and that he was there to punish all those who had sinned. And in his religion was a bit more, I believe, is a bit more natural-oriented, sky-oriented, and he had instructions to conquer as well. Genghis Khan, which, many centuries later, might hearken back to that same type of mission. Genghis Khan actually was a lord of the Mongols. He said that the sky god Tengri, which he communed with on a mountaintop, commanded him to go forth and to conquer. And he did. And he created the largest contiguous land empire that there's ever been in the world. He literally conquered from China and Korea all the way to the Ukraine area, which is a pretty darn big area. He even went and sacked Baghdad in Egypt, or Baghdad rather. Now, when he finally got to Egypt, the Mongols started losing at that point. But that was after Genghis Khan was dead. But once again, this religious instruction to conquer, to unite mankind, bloodily, but I guess perhaps the opinions of these alien overlords figures you got to crack a few eggs in order to make an omelet. Lastly, I saw the vision that Hitler saw. He was in his bedroom when this alien appeared. It didn't look like a reptilian, but it gave off reptilian energy. And Hitler cried out in his sleep, and when people came into his quarters, he was frightened out of his mind. And of course, there was nothing there to find at that point in time. And what Hitler said was that he had seen the new man, and this new man was intrepid and cruel. Going back in time, Hitler was a gassed World War I soldier. He was in the Passewalk Hospital when the news came that Germany had surrendered. He experienced blindness. I don't think anybody knows for sure, whether it was from the gas attack that he was subjected to in the war, or whether it was some hysterical blindness because of that kind of announcement. But he reports that he had visions after his hysterical blindness kicked in. And in these visions, he was shown a Germanic empire, how he could conquer and create this enormous empire. So You have a lot of different times, different religions, very different types of individuals. But every one of them was spurred on in some way by this alien intervention to try to unify the earth. Now, I didn't mention Alexander the Great. That's another good story. Before he started his conquering expedition, his mother pulled him aside and told him a story that his father was not who he thought it was. That actually she was struck by lightning in the womb by Zeus, and that he was actually the son of Zeus, and that he should go forth and, be worthy of such a father. So there's a wide variety. And believe me, all the examples that I saw a lot more, and they buzz by very quickly. And I've just given you a smattering of some of the examples that I saw. And I've got news for you that it has not ended, that to this day, there is still alien individuals, civilizations, that have designs on Earth. Look for messianic religions, ones that believe they have to conquer in one form or another. Look for political entities that want to conquer, to make a better Earth, to make a unified Earth, which sounds beautiful, doesn't it? But not if our strings are being pulled somewhere beyond our knowledge. Well, that was the second part of the vision that I saw in the Akashic Records. If you found it interesting, please hit the like button, share it with those of like minds. Subscribe if you haven't already. Please share your comments and your questions. I'll do my best to answer them, and you may have some great comments as well. And as always, this is Rick, and I will see you on the astral plane.